Hello everyone, I'm Gary Laubach and we are celebrating a very special occasion as Lafayette is celebrating their 150th anniversary of Lafayette Baseball. You can't have a celebration without a special guest, and we certainly have one here today. Probably doesn't need any introduction, but I have that job to do, so I will do it. He is a Lafayette baseball player, former one. He is an alum from the class of 1976. You probably know him best as the manager of the Chicago Cubs. They won the World Series. They did that in 2016 after 107 years of not having a World Series championship. Of course, I'm talking about Joe Maddon. And Joe, thanks for stopping back on campus.
It's always great to be back on campus. Got in here this morning, looking forward to the big game tomorrow. We have a little bit of a party tonight down at the Zate House. We used to do that a lot more often back in the day, actually. But it's always wonderful to be back here. Just driving over today, get off at 22, come up the hill. That's a magnificent vista coming up the hill right there with Zate sitting at the top. So it's always a pleasure to be back home.
Well, we're at the K-Mine Varsity House where they do house baseball, and we're going to spend 9 innings with Joe. That means I've got 9, hopefully, good questions to ask him. And Joe, I'm going to start off with what drew you to Lafayette College? Why did you come here from Hazleton, Pennsylvania?
Well, actually, I was a football player. And I was recruited here to play football.
Quarterback, right?
I was a quarterback. I played here my freshman year. We had a really good freshman team to the point that the administration thought they did a poor job letting in too many non-scholars. So I think we were like 6 or 7-1. We lost to Rutgers only. But Coach Joe Serra, Coach Joe Serra recruited me, and Coach Serra, he recruited an entire family. He used to bring my mom ice cream during the day, came down on campus. He was kind of like a Columbo figure from back in the day, Peter Falk. So I got down here, did the campus, explored the campus, of course, knew the history of the place. But I also wanted to play baseball. And Norm Gigon was the manager or coach at that time, and he had a tremendous reputation too. So listen, I haven't even spoken about academics yet, but I honestly was here. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, believe it or not, and I came to Lafayette via football, but baseball was available on a very high level. And of course, then when you get indoctrinated to the campus and the students and everything else about it, it's pretty complete. So, truth be told, it was Coach Joe Serra that recruited me to Lafayette.
And then baseball, did you play? I know you taught, but did you play other positions?
Well, actually, I was a pitcher and a shortstop when I got here.
Oh, okay.
And I did not like not hitting on a consistent basis, or at all. So we're down in Florida playing the Kansas City Royals Baseball Academy in our spring trip, and I had pitched the first game, ironically, against University of Tampa, where I live right now. The ballpark is about a mile from my house in Tampa right now that I played my first Lafayette game. I pitched against the University of Columbia at that time. We go eventually down to Sarasota, play the Kansas City Royals Baseball Academy, which is a professional team. And after the game, the first game, their gig was upset with our catching. So he asked for volunteers to catch. I hadn't caught since I was 12 in Little League, and this was like, what, 6, 7 years later. And I volunteered to catch the next day. Richie Carter was pitching because I hated not hitting. So the next day I caught against the Royals Academy, a pro team, had not caught in 6 years. I did not play that well. I'm not going to say I did, but that was the beginning of my career as a catcher. Had I not made that transition, I'd have never gotten to pro baseball. I totally believe that.
Oh my goodness, the coincidences are unbelievable.
Yes.
How they fall into what eventually happens. Let's go to the second inning.
Yep.
This one is just your favorite post-game meal.
My favorite post-game meal?
Yeah.
Anywhere?
Anywhere.
Wow, that's a tough one.
You're like a gourmet, though.
Well, you know, we are spoiled. Truth be told, we are spoiled with the Cubs, especially. If there's something we want there the next day, it's there the next day, man. It's whatever that may be, and I don't mean that. I'm not stretching the truth. That's not hyperbole. It is. Favorite post-game meal? Steakhouse in Chicago. I mean, Chicago, we got some decent food out there. Right now, I've had a point to one. I've really been attracted to this place called Steak 48 in Chicago. I'm a New York strip guy. I'm a baked potato guy.
Hazleton, meat and potatoes.
Yeah, exactly. So New York strip, medium, baked potato, butter, sour cream and chives, and maybe some asparagus with a really good glass of red. And right now, my favorite red is a Brunello from Italy.
I think that would be anybody's post-game
exactly.
meal, for sure. Third inning, what has Lafayette meant to you, and what has it meant to your career?
Well, personally to me, it's where I grew up. I mean, I'm from Hazleton, PA. It's about an hour from here. And I love being from Hazleton, and it was the best place in the world to grow up as a young person. Your formative years, parents, grandparents, family, mentors, coaches, teachers, etc. But I didn't grow up until I got to Lafayette. I was very naive, extremely naive. I couldn't have been more naive. I would say use a lot. That was plural for you. I called pizza pits. And when I got down here, the guys looked at me like, what are you talking about? I was naive, very naive. And I met a cross-section of people here, from a lot from New York City, the island, or Jersey, and elsewhere. But the group of friends I was able to become involved with here really formed me. And that's not exaggeration. Where I'm at right now professionally and how I probably act socially has a lot to do with my time here at Lafayette. And of course, academically, I'd like to think that I grew intellectually also, but I just think it was a social experience and the people that I met here. And that's why I'm drawn. I mean, that's what I'm still drawn to. We're here for this weekend. A lot of the friends will be coming back. We're still in touch. We're still in touch with a group of guys and ladies that you knew 1972 to 1976. So this is where you grow up. This is where you figure things out a little bit, and it's true. So when you go out in the real world, you might have been a C student or an A student. What you really have to be is the A+ student in interacting with other human beings, and I think that's what I learned how to do at Lafayette.
I think just to build on that a little bit, when people talk about your managerial skills, they often talk about your intellect. So obviously you came to a place that's known for that, and you obviously deserve to be here.
My SATs were okay.
Okay.
Class rank was okay. It was okay. I think I was probably, if I didn't play quarterback, I might have ended up going to Lehigh.
Ooh, ouch.
I'm just saying I want to qualify at Lafayette. That's what I'm trying to say.
We move to the fourth inning with Joe, and your favorite road trip, favorite place to play?
Well, it is Wrigley, but that's my home ballpark now. Fenway Park. I mean, it really is. I like the old stuff. I like the old ballparks.
Great crowd.
It is. It's a really sophisticated, sometimes violent crowd, vitriolic crowd.
Do they go together, right?
Yeah, I guess they do. I appreciate that. When you're a real competitor and you get into that high level of things, you want to play in a place where the group's going to be against you. That should bring out the best in you. I think the word pressure is a motivator. I think expectations is also a motivational word. So I like to be in a situation where the pressure is considered high and expectations are through the roof. And that should bring out the best in anybody. So when you go play the Red Sox in Boston, when I was with the Rays, that was a big part of what we had to get over. Right now with the Cubs, it was St. Louis. We got over that too. You really want to get to that area, that level of a challenge that exceeds anything else that's going on right now. I mean, we're talking in the baseball world, there's not a greater challenge than the old Yankee Stadium compared to the new one, absolutely. I'm not as much of a fan of the new Yankee Stadium. The old one was more intimidating. Fenway can be very intimidating. Wrigley's intimidating. Busch Stadium can be intimidating. Dodger Stadium, etc. But the venue itself, I still believe, and I do believe this, I'm not just saying it, Wrigley is the best venue, I think, possibly in all professional sports. And I would say Fenway comes in the top 5.
All right. Fifth inning, best Lafayette baseball memory.
My boy Jack Wester sitting right out there. We were just talking about it on the way out. I used to attend the Kesslerville Hotel with Jack's Bar out here often, and the proprietor was Jack Wester.
You were of age.
I think I was. He never said I wasn't. I used to go there often. I'd sit at the bar, drink a Molson with some beer sausage and a pickled egg, and his wife Glad would be in back. Glad would be in charge of cooking the hamburgers or the porterhouse steaks. Jack was an 80-year-old vaudevillian. Wonderful man, and he'd drink a little bit too much on a nightly basis. And he'd stand in the corner, his lips would get purple, and he would start reciting poetry, like Faces on the Barroom Floor or Gunga Din. It was awesome. But I'm looking out the window right here, and Jack would sit in those bleachers right there. And I'd be playing, and Jack liked me. And Jack liked that I would talk all the time, and I would always hustle. So he'd yell out, "Come on, hustling Joe." And he'd yell that. There'd be 20 people there. And I'd hear Jack's voice, and I knew Jack was there. So I did some decent things on the field, but my greatest, driving up, I was talking to Justin and Mario, I was walking up here. The memory that really hits me quickly is Jack sitting right over there, yelling out my name, and he would come to all the games. Jack's is the coolest bar I've ever attended in my life.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not that far from here. And I've attended a lot of bars, and I don't mean to start going in the wrong direction here. But Jack's was the place. It had a little pool table, burgers and porterhouse, beer sausage with some great mustard and pickled eggs, and cold Molson on draft. That's where I saw Hank Aaron hit the home run.
Oh, wow.
Black and white TV, maybe that big. I'm sitting at the bar, and he hits, what, 7:15 that night? And I was sitting at the bar when that occurred at Jack's. So
Indelible.
I'm telling you, man, I mean, right there, loved what I mean, you know, hit some homers, had some nice games, whatever. But Jack being in those metal stands out there every game, because not only me, I mean, Rex Peters loved, I mean, all the guys loved it. Rex dug on Jack also. All the guys really got into Jack, but he was there and he yelled out my name. So this place represents Jack to me.
Okay, we move to the 6th inning. You're a worldly kind of guy. In fact, you told me you just got back from Italy. What do you like to do in your free time?
As little as, I mean, I don't want to say a little as possible. I really like to do nothing well. Like I tell my wife, I love to do nothing with her. You know, it's like, it's really, there's a time you got to shut her down. And when I shut her down, I don't totally shut her down. When you shut her down, you let things come to you, as opposed to really trying to make things occur. I think it's the best time to really process what had just happened, what you want to do next. So this time of the year, I'm at that point. What just happened, what do I want to do next, and how do I want to do it?
Still using the mobile home? Still out
oh yeah,
there?
oh yeah. That's in Florida right now. We'll drive the spring training in that. Love driving. It's a 45-foot Winnebago. Awesome. We'll drive it out there. I love driving a bus. I mean, that's probably an avocation. I don't know. But I do like downtime. We had this huge snowstorm. We just got back from Italy last night. Woke up this morning, our house is like covered in snow, and it brings back all the warm fuzzies. When you were a kid, at the big snow banks, going out and playing and stuff, the competition of just getting things done, whether you have to go to the store or a shovel or whatever it might be. It's a wonderful time of the year. So I love doing nothing.
Our 7th inning question. If you weren't in baseball, what would Joe Maddon be doing?
I think I'd be running a hotel or resort in the Mediterranean or the Caribbean. That's what I think I'd like to do. I've always thought that. I like hotel restaurant administration. I like resorts. I like that part of the world. I was just in the Mediterranean world. The Caribbean I love. I mean, I have a lot of Hispanic and Latin players in organization. Every baseball team does. And to go to either, I've not been to Cuba yet, I got to get to Cuba, but Puerto Rico, Dominican, down to Venezuela, Mexico. I love that part of the world. I live in Tampa right now, right on the Gulf of Mexico. Something about the vibe and the method. And I was talking to Allison we were talking about Europeans in Italy, and people there really know how to live. I highly accuse the Hispanic culture of knowing how to live. And I really appreciate that about them. They've taught me a lot. So if I wasn't, a real nice 5-star gig and a really cool island somewhere or off the coast somewhere, to me, running something like that would be challenging, but also a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. 8th inning, what are your thoughts? Lafayette, 150 years of baseball, you've been a part of it. What do you think 150 years of a sport here means to the college?
A lot. I mean, first of all, the fact that it existed that long always matters. I know we just went through 150 in football a couple years ago. I was there for that. It just speaks to tradition. Longevity always means you're probably pretty good at what you do. There's probably been a lot of growth involved and a lot of attraction. The fact that you could be an institution like this for that long and continually get better and attract more and more high-end folks to want to come there. And then specifically you want to talk about baseball, because that was pretty much at the genesis of the game 150 years ago. That's pretty much when Mr. Doubleday and the group brought it over from England. They brought rounders on over, So all that stuff, I just love longevity. I just, the fact that you've been able to do something for a long period of time. There's a consistency about that. I love the word consistency and discipline. All those things matter. So to be here for 150, I think it just speaks to the entire institution, actually. And I love the fact that it has existed that long, and it probably puts us pretty far ahead of a lot of other institutions regarding being able to play this game. I guess what, Stephen Crane played baseball here at one time?
Yeah, Red Badge of Courage.
Yeah, he did. Mr. Badge of Courage had done that. He was a catcher also. Actually, Dan Weiss, when he was the president here, had me here for a day and drew some parallels between Mr. Crane and myself, being that I was somewhat of a meager catcher here at one point. But to be involved in all that kind of history is kind of cool.
Speaking of longevity, just to get off script a little bit, how long do you think you'll stay in the game?
As long as they want me to, I would say is probably the best answer I can give. I think a lot of it has to do with health. I mean, you got to take care of yourself. You have to have energy and enthusiasm on a daily basis to want to do it in the same manner that you did it maybe 15, 20, 25 years ago. Once you lose that edge, then you should just walk away. If you don't wake up fully motivated by the day, then don't do it, because you're cheating everybody at that point. So as long as your motivation daily is that same, because I mean, listen, age is age. I mean, it's a number. There's nothing you can do about that. And actually, I'm very grateful for the fact I am 64, and hopefully I'll get a chance to be 65. There's nothing to lament about that. But I think, too many times the number among some people carries too much of a definition. You get lumped together. It's almost ageism, or it's almost like talking about millennials versus traditionalists,
Right.
or Xers or baby boomers, whatever. You just have to be part of this age group, but individually it could be something entirely different. So for me, it's just a matter of, as long as I maintain my energy and enthusiasm, and once this knee feels better, I'm ready for this season. So it's always, I really try to kind of like treat myself no differently than I did 20, 25 years ago, and I don't.
Somebody told me yesterday, growing old is good, and I
Yeah.
liked when I
Yeah,
heard that.
that's true.
Ninth inning, final question. Joe, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were a student here at Lafayette?
That's on one of my T-shirts. Thank God I didn't know then what I know now. You would have been paralyzed. If you knew too much back then, you wouldn't have done anything. Back in it, but something I could have carried that. One more time, ask the question, because I got off track. Right?
Okay, what do you know now that you wish you knew back when you were younger?
The biggest thing is to really not sweat the small stuff. There's that statue over by, I think it's near Gates, the Lafayette statue, kind of like down in the hollow there a little bit. I go down there and stand a lot at night, just by myself. And you'd look up, and sometimes the moon would be right behind his head. And I'd look up there, and you're always wondering about, how's this going to work out? Yes, I played football, but I wanted to be a baseball player. I did. So you'd always be wondering about that, and how you're going to get through it. And then you go down the road, man, and you start out as a minor league manager and scout, and you're in debt all the time. You got to use credit cards because you can't afford it any other way. How am I going to get out of debt? How am I going to afford my first new car? How am I ever going to buy my first new house? You think about all this stuff back then, and you worry. You worry unnecessarily. Try to channel the worry more into action, or a passion to do something, or I would say action, because we spend way too much time worrying about stuff that more than likely is never going to occur. And it really subtracts either from your personality or from your energy, that aura, that vibe that you present. You never want to subtract from that. So just stay with the process, stay motivated, and if you're of that ilk, all the stuff that you worry about, try to put in your back pocket, because eventually it's going to work out if in fact you stay after it, which is after whatever you're trying to accomplish. Just stay after it, and it's going to come around. But to go through all this unnecessary worry, with my kids, the one thing I try to emphasize to Joey and Sarah is that to really enjoy the struggle. At any age, okay, I'm 64. Would I prefer the success of 64 over the struggle of 22 to what would I rather be able to do tomorrow? I think I definitely would go for the struggle of 22 in a heartbeat. So enjoy the struggle while you're involved in it. Eventually, you're going to work your way through it if you stay with the process and really try not to worry so much.
Now I understand why everybody likes to play for Joe Maddon. 150 years of Lafayette baseball. I don't think of a better way to reminisce than with Joe Maddon. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.